She deserved it. She deserved it in town. I have one more enough.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Oh, shoot. Remember Rabbi Osmo with his black marker last year, except it was a Sharpie?
He almost did it this year, but we stopped him just in time. He was terrified.
He did it twice last year, and then I took the marker away from him.
Like, you couldn't even have it.
And you hit it. You were like, no, I'm not anymore.
We had to send him to go get a regular marker.
Oh, it's a girl.
No, I have a whole bunch
Okay, I really wanted to start reviewing because we're moving forward in the Maimer. So have a more clear understanding of what we learned before in the Maimer. What? Yeah, we finished. Yeah, we finished almost to the end of 68. So let's finish 68, which is chapter 8. And then we'll review chapter 8. After reviewing chapter 8, we'll go back to review the previous chapters. On page 68, last part of the Maimer, he writes that unfortunately, this is what's going on in most communities, that every issue that pertains to the shul, yeshiva, rabbanim, shchita, issues of kedusha, there's so much conflict going on. People can't find a way of working things out with each other. And it appears to be as if it's just different opinions, but really it's not different opinions. It's about, unfortunately, it's sinas chinam, that there's just one person feels that the other person he's threatened by him, and therefore he has negative feelings towards him. And as a result of the negative feelings, that's what leads to disagreeing with him. Because he doesn't feel positive about that person or he hates that person, that's why he doesn't agree with him. That affects, that if he says this, I have to say the opposite. So on page 68, he concludes, very important point. It's actually a parenthesis, but it's a very important point. And that is right before the summary. By Deza, through this, because of these conflicts, the things that are necessary to happen and that are essential, unfortunately, they get lost. And unfortunately, people don't pay any attention to the fact that whatever project was necessary is going to be discontinued, is going to fall apart. The person's obsessed with one thing, and that is his own yeshus. So therefore, I have to win. I have to come out on top. And even if it means that because of me resisting, and me not cooperating, and me undermining the other person, as a result of that, that whole project, whatever it is going to fall apart, that doesn't stop him because he's not interested in the project, he's interested in himself. In other words, very often in a community, whether it's about a yeshiva, whether it's about a shul, whether it's about shchita, whether it's about a rav, it doesn't happen because of these conflicts. There's a famous story in Tanakh, and that is with Shlomo Melech. When he first became king, something happened, and when that happened, everyone saw the great wisdom of Shlomo Melech. What happened? That there were two women, both of them gave birth at the same time. One woman's baby was healthy, And unfortunately, the other woman's baby died. So the woman whose baby died got up in the middle of the night when the other one was sleeping, and she exchanged babies. She took her dead baby, put it on that lady's bed, and she took the lady's baby that was alive to herself. But when the mother woke up, she recognized that this is not her baby. And she began to scream that you stole my baby. Yours is the one that unfortunately died. Anyway, they took the case to Shlomo Melech. And what did Shlomo Melech do? He listened to both of them, and he said, it's not possible to figure out who's saying the truth and who's lying. So what I'll do is bring me a sword. I take a sword, I'll cut the baby in half, and each one of you will get a half. One woman began to scream, don't, let her have the baby. And the other person said that's a very wise decision. So Shlomo Melech said, okay, now I know who the real mother is. And the one who was screaming not to do it, he gave her the baby. It sounds like it's okay, it's a nice story, it's a wise, it's a very smart approach that he used. But is this the wisdom of Shlomo Melech? So there's no doubt there's much more to the story than what meets the eye. But that story, in a sense, is saying the same thing that says here in the Maimer. In other words, here's a person that is ready to have the baby get cut up, God forbid. But as long as she comes out on top, in other words, as long as the other woman is not going to have a child and she doesn't, she was so jealous of the other woman that she didn't care that this baby, God forbid, would be killed. The one who is truly her baby, we'd rather have the baby in the hands of the other woman than chas v'sholom, something should happen to the baby. So sometimes there's a conflict about a certain issue, and I understand that this is the better way to do it. The other person understands that's a better way to do it. When I see the other person is being very stubborn, and if I don't back off, then the whole thing is going to fall apart. I'd rather back off and let the thing happen in not the best way, but at least it's happening, rather than keep pushing and fighting, and then nothing will just fall apart. That's what he says in the Maimer. That unfortunately, because of the arguments, the inyan klali, which is essential, and it's actually something that must happen, is going to fall apart because of this conflict, which shows that this person's interest is only yeshus. He's not interested in the objective and the true purpose. Even though he's screaming, we have to do this yeshiva, we have to do this shul, we have to do this shchita, we need to have this shir. But we see that he's ready for the whole thing to fall apart. If he's not the one that's going to have it his way, then you see it's not his baby. That's not what he cares about. He just cares about his yeshus.
Majeski?
Yeah.
But at what point is it better that people's yeshus should drive the what happens in the community if stuff is getting done, than for no one to have yeshus but nobody's motivated?
Nobody's motivated?
So the reason why this person is so motivated that something should be done in the community is because they're doing it because of their yeshus, right?
Right.
But it should be more, you're saying that they work on it together?
Yeah, in other words, everybody, we're all human. So there's a part of us that feels good that I accomplished something and I did something and it gives me personal pleasure. I would say that's sort of the normal human yeshus. But when the yeshus reaches a point that if it's not my way, that I say in English, if it's either my way or a highway, if it's not my way, then I don't care if the whole thing falls apart. That means that the yeshus takes precedence over everything else. And that's when you know that it's out of control. But the fact that people want it a certain way, and sometimes they don't see clearly, the lines are blurred. Is it really me? Or I really truly believe that this is the best way? It's a little bit hard sometimes to recognize that. These are the kind of things you need a mashpia or a friend who could look at it from an objective perspective and tell me whether I should continue doing it or not. But if I see that the objective is falling apart and the whole project is falling apart just because it's not going my way, then to me that should be a sign that it's my yeshus, clearly, and I should back off. Yeah.
So like, does the Yeshus work like Iyar the same like in a way that seems to be good and great and like best for me, but like in reality it's like hidden?
Right, that's the whole problem. That the one who has yeshus doesn't recognize he has yeshus, because he feels that he's fighting because this is the best thing and this is the right thing. So in his mind, that's the way the Yetzer Hara works. That in his mind, he thinks he's fighting for Hashem. You know, it's a humorous explanation, but it's interesting. And I guess there's some truth to it also. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that says when there's a machlokes, shaloi l'shem shamayim, if there's a machlokes which is not for the right reasons, ultimately it'll be discontinued. When there's a machlokes for the right reasons, that's something which will continue, like Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. That's a true machlokes. They're arguing in Torah, and we see that this became part of Torah. We have Beis Shammai's opinion, we have Beis Hillel's opinion. But Korach, who stood up against Moshe Rabbeinu, because it was not l'shem shamayim, so ultimately it all fell apart. There's no more Korach, there's no more team, it's all gone. That's the simple meaning. But the other explanation is that when two people argue about things that are not l'shem shamayim, they're arguing about food, about clothing, about space, about a parking spot, then these are the kind of fights that could end. A person could say at a certain point, you know what? So I don't want to fight. I don't like that. There's so much negative feeling going on. Okay, I'll give up. I'll surrender. I'll let you have it your way, and I'll give up. But when two people are fighting with Shem Shemayim, I'm not fighting for myself. I'm fighting for Hashem. If I'm fighting for Hashem, I can never give up. I have to keep fighting and fighting, because it's not about me. It's about, I want to do the right thing for Hashem. So how could I compromise? How could I give up on my ideas? So these are the fights that continue forever. So again, it's a joke, but it's not such a joke. It's really true that the Yetzer Hara comes to a person and tells him, you have to fight because it's not about you. It's about Torah. It's about mitzvahs. And unfortunately, it like he says over here, they're fighting about a Rav, they're fighting about shchita, they're fighting about learning, about a shir, but in reality, it's about Majeski.
Well, like, it says somewhere that like once you have this like fight about going Yiddishkeit and stuff, it's L'Shem Shamayim and it's good. But like now comes it's her. So like where is the truth?
So the answer is that these are the kind of things that are subtle. I can't really recognize easily why am I so motivated that it should be my way. Is it because I'm so determined that things should be emes, or is it because it's my way? So this is what it says in the Maimer. If I see that because of my fighting, this thing will fall apart, then I know for sure it's not about Hashem, it's about me. I'll get to you in a second. But very often, it's like, let's say when it comes to issues of shalom bayis, husband and wife. There's a famous story. I don't remember, I might have told you the story before Pesach, that there was a Rebbe called the Aptarov, and he only ate matzah that was baked a certain way. He didn't eat any other matzah. He used to bake the matzah the way he wanted, put it aside for Pesach. And there was other matzah, simple matzah, but he didn't eat it. Other members of the family ate it. He only ate these matzahs. I forgot what the circumstances was someone came to the house. Apparently they had no matzah for Pesach. And the wife, the Rebbetzin of this Rebbe, at that time didn't have the other matzahs. And she saw this person doesn't have what to eat. So she took these special matzahs of her husband and she gave it away to this person. And then she exchanged it with a simple matzah. I don't remember the reason why she couldn't give him those matzahs. Maybe it came later. Anyway, Pesach comes. She was terrified because he was a big tzaddik. He might right away recognize, these are not my matzah. What happened to my matzah? But he didn't. He made the seder. He ate it as if everything was regular and everything was fine. About a week or two after Pesach, a couple comes to him and they want to get divorced. So he asks the husband, why do you want to get divorced? He says, because my wife doesn't respect me and I can't live this way. What happened? So he says, well, came to Pesach, I have my chumras, my hidurim, the way I like things done, and she wouldn't cooperate. And she doesn't respect what I want to do. So his Rebbe said to him, just 1 second, calls in the Rebbe and says, tell them what happened before Pesach. So she knew what happened. And she told him, how she exchanged the matzah. And he said that fighting and machlokes, and especially divorce, God forbid, that's something which is midoraisa. Two people hate each other. That's violating something which is in the Torah. These chumras are chumras of chumras of chumras. It's not even an obligation. It's your personal additional stringency that you took upon yourself. That will override something that's been a Torah. Anyway, of course, he told him, what really happened here? How could it be that this person was thinking in his head that it's more important for his stringencies, which are homemade, that's more important than, God forbid, breaking up a family? That's exactly what it says here. Because they get so caught up in, this is me, and this is what I want, and how dare this person doesn't respect what I want, that justified in his mind. It's not because of me. I'm doing it because of Pesach. She doesn't let me be frum, so to speak. It's not about being frum. It's an extra stringency. Breaking up a marriage is not frum. And not chas v'shalom, not frum. But if it's for no good reason, then it's also not frum. He's going to talk about this later, that a lot of these things are very hard to recognize where it's coming from. And that's where the Yetzer Hara gets us. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask, like, how do you check in with yourself and because you could
So one of the ways, there's a famous Hayom Yom, which is always quoted, Hayom Yom, the 23rd of Sivan, where that's the famous Hayom Yom where the Rebbe Rashab describes the Chassidus that he had with the Rebbe Marash. And he said, until then, I never knew there could be a frum Yetzer Hara and even a Chassidish Yetzer Hara. What he means to say is that sometimes the Yetzer Hara could come disguised as a chassid, wearing a silk kapata and a long white beard, and he's encouraging you to do something in the name of Chassidus, but really is the Yetzer Hara. Says people call him Nefesh Bahamas. You think he's just a behemoth like a cow? No, he could also be sly like a fox and coming this way, that way, but it really is out to get you. Yeah.
I wanted to know, is it yeshness if someone's cheating the system and you're seeing something like that not good to your eyes? Is it still yeshness? If you get upset about it because it's something that's just I don't know, but it just really it's they're really cheat, they're taking advantage of people and cheating people. Is that still what is that? What's the answer to that?
In general, we're not supposed to be sort of focusing on other people's negative things. Again, going back to Pesach, you probably know that the custom is, I remember I spoke about it at the dorm, that you take the chametz, the 10 pieces, and a wooden spoon, and the candle, and you burn them. I don't know who said this, but there's a word from someone. Okay, the chametz you have to burn. The spoon picked up the chametz you have to burn. But why burn the candle? The candle is not chametz. The candle didn't even handle any chametz. So the answer is, something that is searching for chametz should be burned. In other words, someone who's searching for what's wrong in the other person is not a good character trait. So I have to train myself, even though there's something wrong there, but I think about it, I get all upset, my blood is boiling with how bad this person is. So that's my avodah, not to focus on that and not to let that get to me, because that it could be kedushin, it could also be yeshus. It's very, very confusing, very, very mixed up. So you asked the question before, how could you know? So it says in Chav Gimel Sivan Hayom Yom, look at the outcome. What's going to be the outcome? Like in this case, if the outcome is that the good thing is going to fall apart, then it's not coming from kedusha. The nefesh kiss would never lead to such an outcome. That's number one. And number two, these are the very situations where the Rebbe says, "Asay l'charav," we need a mashpia, because it's so so confusing that it's very difficult for a person to see things clearly the way they are. It's like the halacha that if a person takes sheikhad, if a person gets bribed before a court case, he's disqualified to judge. Why can't he say, I'll make sure that I'm going to really focus only on what's emes? You can't. Once the other person gave me money, or the other person did me a favor, or the other person did something for me which makes me feel some sort of a gratitude towards them, so therefore I can't judge my judgment. I can't trust my judgment anymore, because even though I think I'm doing it for the purest of reasons, it could really be it's because of my leaning towards that person, wanting to favor that person. Yeah.
What you said, and like you like went out five with like those notes and like with like this whole thought process, you might bring it like put yourself in the place where this yeshus is even bigger when it was like in the beginning when you like started to think about it. So what's the way to fight with it? Like put it in the right place and use it.
Yeah, yeshus is something which is inside. Anything that's inside the kishkis is very hard to change. It's inside. The way we work on changing things is from the outside in. That's what the whole Tanya is about, the Beinoni. In other words, not to do things which I know is a result of yeshus, not to speak, which I know is a result of yeshus, and even not to allow certain thoughts if I know that it's a result of yeshus. In other words, to say to myself, how can I make myself not feel sort of so obsessed with self? It's a little bit difficult, but not to act that way of yeshus, which means putting someone else down or this kind of thing, fighting about something, we're not stopping because, and I know it's coming from yeshus. If I don't do what comes from yeshus, I don't speak, which is a result of my yeshus, or I don't even allow my thoughts to get carried away about my yeshus, how great I am, or about my image and about my status. I know that this is all the yeshus in my head. I just stop myself from going there and just move on to do what needs to be done. You're just like there are thoughts that a person is not allowed to think, let's say thoughts about against Hashem, like things that are the opposite of true belief in Hashem, or thoughts that are unrefined thoughts. So I also, if I see that I'm getting lost in thoughts about indulging in myself and my yeshus, I stop myself from thinking and I move on. If a person doesn't allow it to express itself in thought, speech, and action, eventually it becomes weaker inside. I can't just say, okay, don't be yesh. I'm that kind of person. Again, it's first of all, it's part of being human, but again, it's the extent of it. So if I don't allow it to express itself in thought, speech, and action, it becomes weaker. Like I told you, I'll give you an example. If someone does something which is amazing, and as a result of what they did, they let's say they inspired 100 people to keep Shabbos, and then they start thinking, "Wow, I'm really amazing. How many people did such a thing?" I hope more people know about this, and I really have to find a way of people getting to know what I did. It's really, and you realize, oh, this is my yeshua. So you just stop yourself from thinking that and go on. Or like the Rabbi says, you got 100 people inspired. Okay, now let's look where else I can do something similar. Instead of thinking about how great I am and how could I let the whole world know what I did. There was a chassid in the times of the Frierdiker Rebbe who was very close to the Rebbe, even though he wasn't related. He was like as if he was a family member. His name was Rabbi Chaim Altos, and he had a very good sense of humor. And sometimes when he saw that the Rebbe must have heard news or something's going on, and the Rebbe is not his normal uplifted spirit, he would try to say something, do something to sort of lighten, make light of things a little bit. So one time when there was such a situation, and he walks into the Rebbe's room, and he says, you just need mazel. If you don't have mazel, it's just not going to work, not going to work. So the Rebbe says, looks like something happened, right? What happened? So he says, I was on the train, and while I was on the train, I had a safer learning, and I was hoping somebody would walk in and see that I'm learning while I'm driving on the train. Not a person walks in. So I decide I'll change cars. I'll go to the next car. Over there, I'll sit down. Maybe somebody will walk into that car. I walk into that car, there's someone sitting there with a safer, and I saw him. He had the mazel. I saw him, he didn't see me. In other words, I mean, he was making fun of people that are obsessed with, I want people to see what I'm doing. I want people to know what I'm doing. It should be publicized. So I guess if a person finds that that's where my thoughts are going, just stop yourself from thinking and just move on to what has to be done. I know you're thinking, so how come we publicize good things that people do? This one gave tzedakah, and this one did this, and you make an announcement in the newspaper, you make a dinner, and you give them honor. Because the bottom line is, if this motivates people to do things, the main thing is action. So we do that. But the person himself, I should respect everyone. And from my end, I have to do whatever I can to make people feel good. The person himself has to say to himself, let me focus on what needs to be done, not on my issues. Okay, so let's turn to the booklet now. I'm not going to go back at this moment. Let's first do page 70, the questions on page 70, just as a review. But we're not going to write inside because this is going to be used every year. Anybody that, I told you, the problem is at the end of the year, I find all the booklets all over the place, and there's a lot of clutter here, and a lot of people don't feel comfortable with it. So we decided to do it this way. But if someone really feels like writing the answers, taking it home, showing it to your children and your Hashem, look, this is what I studied, and this is every time you want to feel inspired, you go back. So if you tell me that you want it, we'll make a copy and that you can take with you. But these will stay here. Okay, so let's look at page 70. First question. What does it mean that Shviras HaKelim occurred because there was a Ratzu without a Shuv? Anyone can help me out?
Incorporate each other.
That was the other reason, because they don't incorporate each other. But here in this part of the Maimon, it said because there was a Ratzu without a Shuv. Anyone remember?
There was no bringing it back down.
Right. It was just like this week's parsha with the story of the two sons of Aaron. Just like the two sons of Aaron, they were drawn towards Hashem to the point where there was no return. These lights in the world of Torah also were drawn towards their source, which was infinite, Ein Sof, and then without return. So the left the Keli, and the Keli broke.
So what does it look like in our world when there's a Ratzai with a Shuv? Why does it look like when the light returns?
Why?
No, what does it look like in our world?
That means the person is davening and he's having the greatest feelings of love for Hashem. He's passionate, but yet he's able to contain himself, that it doesn't chas v'sholem do anything to him, there
was no people in the world of.
No, it's not people. But these are the lights of Torah. So it's on their level, spheres. It's whatever it is there is also, but the idea is the same idea. They're drawn to their source, and they're drawn to their source so strong that they leave their vessel, just like the neshama leaves the body and goes to their source, and that's what happened.
So the fact that in our world, someone who's davening can bring themselves back and have that show, that's reflected because the Ruchnius in our world, the same thing happens.
Up there?
Yeah.
That's what happened. That's what goes on in the world of Tikkun, Atzilus. The light and the spheres of Atzilus also have a draw to their source. But in their case, it's not to the point where the Kalim break, it's contained in the Kalim. So there's a Rotzi and a Shuv. It's a two-way road. And the Matayu is a one-way.
The Kalim can also break if there's too much R, right? So it can either break because there's too much Shav or not.
So now, these words, there's too much one of the ways of explaining it is just exactly what I'm saying. Too much meaning the is so passionate and so strong and so intense in terms of connecting to its source that the kalim break.
There's no vessel.
Right, because the light leaves the vessel, so the vessel breaks. Just like when the neshama leaves the body, God forbid the body falls apart. Baal Shem Tov once said that every time that he davens, and after davening he's still alive, is a miracle. Yep.
Like years older than the temple.
My grandfather, he was a chassid with Rabbi Rashab, and all the chassid, he was a big chassid. He would, the Rabbi Rashab told him that he's not allowed to dedicate himself so much to davening. He should be more into learning, not so much into davening. He's still davening long, but because he was so carried away that he fainted.
Well,
So obviously, this is people, those are spheres, but the idea, the principle is the same principle. But now we come to question number 2. Why does Ratzu without a shuv indicate yeshus? And shuv after Ratzu is bittul.
Because you need to like have the understanding of what Hashem really wants us to do.
it's like what the everybody's gonna do.
Right. So if a person has a Ratzu without a shuv, it means my desire and my pleasure of embracing Hashem overrides Hashem's pleasure who wants me to be down here. It's like the mashal that's given in Chassidus is that if there's a king, that he has many countries, and in every one of those countries is very satisfied, it's well established, people are educated, they live a decent life, except for one particular place is an island that no matter how much he tried, he couldn't manage to rehabilitate these people. They're just wild, and they're thieves, and they're lowlives, and they're fighting. They hate the king, and he just, every time he sent someone to try to straighten them out, it was unsuccessful. And he knew there's only one person in the whole country that has the ability to change it. And who's that one person? The prince, the king's personal son. And he asks him that, I need you to do something. I know it's going to be very difficult for you, but it means so much to me if you would go to that island, live there for a few years amongst these wild people, and educate them and rehabilitate them. So he has the same dilemma. On one hand, where was he and where is he going? He's living in a palace near the king. All the people that are there are people of the upper class. He meets the most important people in the country, the most brightest people in the country, the most talented people in the country are coming and going. And here he's going to go to a place where they hate his father, a place where people are fighting with each other, people that are the lowest class people, and be there for a few years. So what does he do? If he's devoted to his father, he basically, that desire to give his father pleasure will override the fact that for me, it's going to be a suffering being down there. If not, then he'd rather not go, and which means his personal desire and pleasure overrides the king's desire. And that's exactly the dilemma that the neshama has. So to a certain extent, again, this is not chas v'shalom yeshus in the literal sense, it's on the highest levels. But the Ratzu, without any person that has a desire to connect to Hashem to the point that he dies, obviously has bittul, it's about Hashem. But on a certain level, it's my personal pleasure overrides Hashem's will that I should be here, not there. Number 3. Okay, so we just gave the answer to number 3. Number 4. What is the relationship between Shviras HaKelim and Elam HaToyu and Sinas Chinam?
They all wanted to shine the brightest. They didn't make space for each other.
Right, it's the same. Shviras HaKelim is the source in the spiritual realm of not being able to incorporate one in the other, and as a result of that, people down here can incorporate, can coexist with another person. Number 5 is an interesting point, and that's why I made a special question out of it. In recent times, this inability of one person accepting the other, where is it found most? So I don't know if you noticed it in the Maimer, but what does it say in the Maimer? Where is it most?
It's mostly people trying, especially in matters of Kedusha.
Right, especially in matters of Kedusha. It doesn't give the reason why, but I think we can say there are 2 reasons why. One reason, like we said before, in matters of Kedusha, the Yetzer Hara could be more camouflaged. When it's personal matters about money or other issues, it's more clear that it's about me. And then a person who is sincere could say, okay, give it up, compromise, because it's causing too much conflict. But when it's matters of Kedusha, it appears that I'm fighting for Hashem, like I said before. It could be another reason, and that's also true, that in matters of Kedusha, the Yetzer Hara invests so much more energy and makes much more of an effort to cause those conflicts, because that's where it matters most. Machlekes is never a good thing, whether it's about matters of Kedusha or about personal matters. But it's like in a war, when one enemy attacks the other enemy, they make an effort to attack those points which are more strategically important. And one of the first things they'll try to attack is the communication, more than attacking a soldier. Because if you destroy the communication in the army, it's strategically that's much more important than anything else. Destroying bridges, destroying the air force, the airport, so planes can come and go, things like that. So if we see that the Yetzer Hara is working so much harder in a shul, in the yeshiva, in a rav, in the shechita, the reason is because this is so much more essential in Kedusha, so therefore the Yetzer Hara works harder in such a place. Number 6, we just learned what is the real root of the problem. Number 7, how does this explain why a white person can't see and accept the other person's opinion, specifically in communal issues? So we just learned that this is because of the yeshus. What could be the worst consequence as a result of sinas chinam regarding communal issues? Is what we just said, that the worst consequence is that the communal project that's supposed to be done falls apart, unfortunately, as a result of that machlekes. What would you say is the main part of this whole this chapter? Every chapter has a main point that it's bringing out. There are details and there's the main point. After learning all this, what would you think is the main point of this chapter? So if you want to cheat, go to the back.
It's not cheating, it's
Don't-
using the resources wisely.
Yeah, don't tell anybody, but in the back, there's a summary of each chapter. So on page 101, there's a summary of chapter 8. So the main point became 3 points. Okay. Number 1, the difference between spheres in the world of Tayo and the spheres of Tikkun is that the world of Tayo is separation, and it's a sense of yeshus. Number 2, the divisiveness and yeshus is the klip of midyan, because a yesh feels threatened by the other person's very existence. And number 3, how this evolves into practical life, that when people can't agree regarding communal issues, it's not a difference of opinion, but it's really a manifestation of sinas chinam. So this is, we're going to see a lot of things that look similar, but really each chapter is there to bring out a different point. So chapter 9 is going to bring out another point. What does yeshus lead to? And how does it affect us? And again, with the question keeps coming up, how do I know that it's yeshus? Once I know what yeshus leads to, so I look to see at the outcome, at the results. When I see these results, so I know this is coming from yeshus. Because it would be coming from a good place, it would be different kind of results. So next chapter, we'll see another thing, which is a result of yeshus. Another way of identifying and being able to make the right diagnosis. It's yeshus, not something else. Okay, to be continued. You know what? If you don't mind, these booklets, let's put it here in the drawer, and the books will go back in the bookcase. Yes. What? 11:40, I think, no? What do you ask? What time we're learning? 11:40, no? Okay. You're welcome. Ouch.